interpret your taxi instructions on your taxi chart before you release the brakes and start moving the airplane. I'll say that again. Interpret. What does interpret mean? Out loud, make sure you understand the taxi instruction ground gave you. Again, if you're operating at a towered airport, before you start moving the airplane. And this will mean the given here is a few things. One, I'll have to have a taxi chart up in order to properly interpret something. Otherwise, I can't interpret it. So you make sure your taxi chart is up and you get taxi instructions. It takes a split of a second, but you'd be amazed how nice it shows. It shows professionalism. It shows that even though this is my home airport, I don't just leave it all to memory and go like a monkey, because one day they might give me a different taxi instruction. So you get the taxi. There's sirens. I want to make sure you hear me and fully get me. This would be a good time for coffee. What this means is that even though this is your home airport, right? You don't just repeat it like a monkey and then go without verifying and looking at anything. And the reason is this. The reason interpreting your taxi instruction before releasing the brakes and moving is to cement that and make it a habit, so that the day you find yourself in Minneapolis or in New York or at a different airport that's not home airport, you do it habitually. You get a taxi instruction, you verify that the route makes sense to you, you fully understand where you're going to taxi, and only then you begin your taxi. So again, how long does it take? Imagine your home airport, the taxi instruction. It's probably a small airport, class Delta. Taxi instruction most likely will just be made up of one or two taxiways. Quick. You have your taxi chart up. Ground gives you taxi instructions. Hold your taxi. Look at the taxi chart and go, okay, they told me boom, Charlie, Alpha, Juliet. Or they told me run up via Sierra. There's Sierra. Boom. Excellent. The moment it makes sense, then release the brakes, start taxiing, and then reference your taxi chart to make sure you're actually taxiing on the correct taxi route that you were told. There's so much more that you could add to it, right? I'll leave it at this for this one. There's a lot that you could add to it. Even though you're referencing your taxi chart, you could loudly point out, yep, there's a sign. You could start pointing to the signs and go, yep, okay, there's a sign. There's Alpha. I'm going to turn right. You could turn this into as intense and in-depth as you wish. But my point here is this. When the DP is sitting next to you, and again, this is something that you should do for life, but specifically we're focused on check rides. When the DP sits next to you and you get a taxi instruction, and before you start moving the airplane, you take those 2 seconds, maybe even a second, and you look at your chart and you make sure that the route makes sense to you before you release the brakes. How do you think that shows to the DPE? What message do you think that leaves your DPE? Do you think it leaves your DPE a message of, oh, they told you to taxi and now you're taking 2 seconds, and oh, now you're holding everyone up? Or do you think it leaves the message with them of, whoa, this person understands the importance of, they know the possibility of confirmation bias. They understand the importance of, they know that unless that route makes sense to them on their chart, there's no way in the world it would make sense to them in real life. That's the message that the DPE gets. And when they get that message, guess what feeling it leaves inside? Now we're dealing with someone who's serious about this. We're dealing with someone who knows what's going on, who's aware of the importance and of the safety that comes along with verifying your taxi route. Just make sure it makes sense on paper. If it doesn't make sense on paper, how in the world will it make sense in real life without even verifying and knowing where you're going? It's like building a house. Imagine you start building a house. No drawings, no paper, no plan. Just start building a house, right? Something might come out, but it might look weird and not be strong, and the foundation will be messed up, right? Start building the house the moment the drawings are complete. Start moving the airplane the moment the taxi instructions are completed in your head. You've interpreted them. You understand what's expected of you. Now go execute. That is a small little thing, and it's so small and simple that it's equally easy and small and simple to miss, which is why many people miss it. Many people get their instructions, especially at their home airport. Start taxi. I know you know the route at your home airport. That's not why we're telling you to do this. Your home airport, you could draw out of memory. It's amazing. But that one day, you'll find yourself in Florida visiting a friend, and it's busy class Charlie, and your habit is to just get the instruction and start moving. And then you find yourself in a pickle. So make this a habit. And by showing up to your check ride with this habit, lots of sirens today. By showing up to your check ride with this habit, it shows in a very, very good way, and will earn you a lot of points on your check ride with TPE. So again, number one is interpret the taxi instructions before you start moving the airplane. Simple. It takes 2 seconds, but it really goes a long way. So keep that one in mind.